Let's talk about Sagara, one of the great bootmakers from one of the world's great underground handmade bootmaking centers, Bandung, Indonesia. Sagara headman Bagus Satrio is one of my favorite people in the whole bootmaking game. I absolutely love the work that he and his team do. His Cordmasters need to be at or near the top of anyone's best monkey boot ranking, and that's just the tip of the Sagara iceberg. And he's just a hugely interesting and wonderful man to boot, which I suppose is a pun. Sorry. Sagara is almost 15 years deep doing exceptional work and about half a decade into massively deserved international prominence, which is great, but not always the easiest. So Bagus and I are going to talk about that ride, what Sagara makes now and what he has coming up, wonderful dogs named after shoes, the whole deal. Been trying to make this one happen for over a year. Language barrier and weather. Rained pretty hard when we taped. You might hear it just a bit. Be damned. So yeah, I'm psyched. Huge shout out to Grant Stone for sponsoring this episode. We love you. Important. We have a private Discord channel where everyone talks nonstop about shoes and boots and leather and sizing and all the best stuff. It's great and you'll love it. Your membership does so much to support everything we're doing over here. Also, Stitchdown's Bootcamp 2. Save the date for our second celebration of shoemaking, October 12th and 13th, 2024 in Industry City, Brooklyn. Wherever you are, get there this October. You won't regret it. All right, and here we go with Bagus Satrio of Sagara Bootmaker, live from Bandung, Indonesia. Bagus, welcome to the Shoecast. How's everything going? And what are you wearing on your feet today, my man?
Hey Ben, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
What boots are you wearing today? We have to know.
I'm wearing my Trailmasters low. I just made this like several days ago. Wore this during the trip to Central Java last week. I love them. We play around with the laces, some sneakerish vibes.
You know I love that kind of stuff.
Thank you. I love them. I can wear them with my casual pants. Like right now I'm wearing my track pants.
I mean, that's the trick, right? Like, it's not easy to design a boot or a boot shoe or whatever it is that you can just pop on with some track pants or sweatpants or whatever. But you make some of the best at it. So you mentioned the trip. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, just scheduling this. Tell me about this trip. Where'd you go?
I went to Central Java. It was like 400 or 500 kilometers from my city. I'm visiting several artisans like hand-woven artisans, natural dyed artisans, also silver artisan, leather artisan, of course, also. Yeah, we had so much fun right there. We communicating and talking about the industries and their possibilities to gather the attention from international. You know what I mean?
It sounds incredible. And yeah, I mean, just like the craft that's happening in Indonesia, I mean, I don't fully understand it. Obviously, the bootmaking is something that, little clued into and love and just love helping other people understand. But yeah, it seems like there's just such a base of craft and making throughout Indonesia. So it must have been pretty cool to go see it all and see what other people are doing in totally different formats.
It was. I'm happy to see the craft still alive until right now.
It's pretty cool. So you grew up in Bandung, where Sagara is based, and it's the capital of West Java and second largest city in Indonesia. It's home to over 11 million people, I'm pretty sure. And yet most people don't know anything about it, right? Well, I mean, like the country Bandung, I mean, yeah, we do. Like, we know that the boots are made there and that they're wonderful. But I'd love to just learn a little bit more about Bandung. Like, what was it like growing up there? What was going on when you were young? And has it changed, to today?
Yeah, in short, Bandung is known for its subcultures. The teenagers like me, when I was young, we grew up with like MTV and absorbed a lot of subcultures from your country, from the US, British. You can see as classic bike scene, street artists, and like a group of 90s British bands. Yeah, something like that in here.
It's good. Well, how did that interact with a lot of the traditional Indonesian culture that we just spoke about?
There is a large garment factories in our cities, but also small workshop combined with traditional craftsmen here. So I can say Bandung is one of the creative city, maybe the most creative city in Indonesia, where all the like a melting pot of a lot of cultures in here.
What's the food like in Bandung? We always talk about food on this show.
Okay, food in Bandung was spicy. Bandung people love sambals. We call it sambals. It's like a lot of chili and spices also. Yeah, Bandung food is great. You must come and try our food. I love it. Technically, not technically. My blood was not Sundanese or Bandung. Not I'm from Java, but my I like Sundanese or Bandung food better than Java.
I mean, one, I got to get over there. Two, I'm just gonna embarrass you. I'm not the best with spicy food.
Really? Me too, actually. I'm not eat spicy food a lot. I just use a tiny sambals.
Okay, so that's Bandung. I'd love to hear your story of your entry into bootmaking and then Sagara's beginnings. Like the whole tale. Like we've talked about it a little bit. There's an amazing interview that you did with James, old soul professor, on stitchdown.com, where you guys talk about a lot. You talk about music and culture and motorcycles and the whole deal. And definitely your journey there, but I feel like we've never actually discussed the whole thing. So where did it start with you? How did you want to start making shoes and boots, and how did it progress?
Well, it started when I was in the college. I was study product design, and at first I was want to be a automotive designer because at that time the internet was not is huge like right now, so I cannot have uh, a clear information about automotive industries. After I came to the college, I just realized that maybe it's hard to compete on the automotive industry. So yeah, in Indonesia it's hard. So I beginning to find what subject that I must to study about product design. At the time, I was on a journey to Central Java, yeah, a place that that we talked before, and I saw a Kwan Im goddess statue. It was like massive, like very huge. It was not made by our ancestor. Our ancestor was known for their skills to make temples and stone craft like that. But that statue was made by modern person. It makes me realize that maybe I should continue to preserve the craft that my ancient has do. So I'm contemplating again, thinking about what can I do, and then at that time I was came to Cibaduyut. Cibaduyut was central for shoemaking in Bandung. I visit shoemaker there, visit leather workshops, and I'm falling in love with the process. And from then, I start focusing my study at the college to learn about shoemaking and bootmaking. That was the story.
Were you into shoes when you were younger?
I was having a deep interest to shoes and jackets since my junior high school.
What kind of stuff?
Basketball shoes, like yeah, like any other kids at that time, like Air Jordans, like Nike Air Force One, something like that.
Same, man. Absolute same. I'm looking actually here at a whole bunch of old Jordans and Dunks and Air Force Ones and pair of orange blazers that I don't never really fit but look really cool. And yeah, I mean that was it, right? But I think it's a love of footwear is pretty transferable, right? And then you realize that there are other exciting things, which you did. So I mean, now you're in school. What kind of shoemaking were you studying?
I was only studying about design, and for shoemaking, I study about cementing construction, not hand welded stuff like I do right now. My final project was making hand welded boots. My final project, but yeah, it was crazy stuff. Yeah, I made a deconstructed boots. Um, stuff like Guidi. I don't know how to spell the Italian brands. Yeah, Guidi, like Guidi ones, like these shoes, like has been worn for like 100 years or yeah, something like that.
And you pulled them apart.
Asymmetric pattern. Yeah.
And then, I mean, what was that like? Like, what did you learn by taking a Guidi boot apart? What did you see that was especially different from maybe some of the cemented stuff that you liked and were working on designing?
Yeah. Because at that time I was working at my one of my favorite Indonesian bootmakers. It was Tegep Boots. I was working in there. I studied a lot about hand welded boots in there, and yeah, I learned about fashion boots from him. Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Tegep has already passed away, but the brands still continue.
And was that part of the Indonesian craft tradition, like making hand welted boots before Sagara?
Yeah, before us, but they use different kind of approach, both on the marketings and the products too. We are quite different, but the root of the products was same, the hand welted.
Okay, so you learned some of that, started to pull boots apart and then kind of create them. How did Sagara form? What was that like at the beginnings of it? And where'd you get the idea and what did it look like? I mean, almost what 13, maybe 15 years ago, right?
I was in love with Alden's at that time. I really want to have a pair of Alden's boots, so I tried to make something similar with them, but yeah, a bit different from our first collection. A bit different from Alden, but they have inspired me a lot.
When did you say I'm going to start this brand? I'm gonna come up with a name. I got to figure out some patterns and designs. We got to put them together. I mean, what was that like? What was your kind of approach to all that?
At the time, my dream was only make the best, not the best, yeah, a, a good boots possible, and to be one of the best boots in Indonesia. I'm not having uh, a dream yet to be known internationally. Uh, from the name of Sagara, because I at that time a lot of Indonesian brands using Western name, not Indonesian name. I want to come up differently, so I use Indonesian name. From what I learned on the college, the logo or branding should be very simple. I want to took a different approach. I made the logo quite complex, yeah, something like that.
And what kind of boots were you making at the outset, or shoes, or whatever it was at the beginning?
It was a wingtip boots, like a chaka, but wingtips. I didn't have that stuff at my shop right now. I have on my house, but it was a mid cut boots, long wing with a wedge style soles like Vibram Christie. but it was not Vibram. Similar like Vibram, but cheaper, uh, cheaper soles. It's hard to find as Vibram at that time. I I didn't have a knowledge to import it stuff back then, so I just using what we have locally in here.
And people like them.
I think so. Yeah. So it was sold quite fast. It was sold quite fast. We didn't make them in large number, but yeah, it was good for our starting point to make the business running at the first time.
So what was that kind of growth process like, and when did Sagara start to, kind of catch and people began take notice of it and just get excited about it? Like what was the growth of the business and the bootmaking like?
Talking about growth, it was not that not that huge, but it was enough for us at this time.
I mean, at this point, it was about maybe 3, 4, possibly 5 years ago. There begins to become this interest from American customers and European customers in Sagara. I mean, and Indonesian boots in general. But I think it's safe to say that Sagara is really at the forefront of that. What was that like when it began to be something that there was a curiosity about and a desire for outside of Indonesia? I mean, that probably changed a lot, right?
Well, I had to thank you about this because we will not be recognized without you, Ben. You know that. I owe you a lot because of for this. Thank you so much. We learn about communicating because we had international buyers like since 2011 or 12, but not as massive like these past 3 or 4 years back. Um, yeah, I learned about how to communicate and then split like my job on the shops and my job while I'm in front of the laptops because I handle the customer service by myself. It was a fun process, but yeah, quite exhausting. So I'm sorry, guys, if you are one of my customers and I was slow in respond. I'm really really sorry. I'm really sorry. I was struggling with time management to split. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's so tough, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast. I've talked about it, with you, and with anybody who will listen. Like the way that things are done over there. Number one, the boots are very legitimately handmade, and so that takes a lot of time. Obviously, they require materials, which more and more are being sourced internationally, which is probably tough. So you got to order, and as a small business, you don't have 1,000 soles sitting there or 100 sides of leather. There's, from a brand perspective, I mean, just the photography that you guys do is absolutely beautiful, right? And that doesn't happen on its own. It's not like throw the boots on the ground and take a picture with your phone kind of thing. And then there's all this communication because everything's custom, right? I mean, at this point, not everything, but the majority of it, and especially in that growth stage from 3, 4 years ago, everything's custom. And then you have to communicate with people who are, they speak a different language, and a lot of them probably want to speak to you in English. And yeah, I mean, it's like it's actually really crazy to think about, especially because you're not running some sort of production line that's just stamping out a black boot, and then somebody says, "I'd love a size 10." Like it's pretty wild what you've had to deal with, especially as this interest is coming in, and you're doing it all on Instagram, which is not the best place to communicate in an organized fashion with people with DMs back and forth. I mean, it's honestly kind of crazy, and I can imagine being quite overwhelmed by that. But the product in the end is always exceptional, like the product never fails. And I think that it's a testament to just how much you care about that in a time that was probably pretty crazy.
Thank you, Ben.
What was the most exciting part about all of the interest in the growth, especially in the last, 3-4 years?
Our collaboration with Standard and Strange was, yeah, it was like, wow, huge moment for us. And then also teaching a new artisan, it was fun process too. Developing, like, most of our main materials was sourced overseas, but like hardware like eyelets, D-rings, all the speed hooks, steel shanks, we develop locally in here. We made the specs, the specification, we, yeah, develop the materials, etc. And also our last development was leather linings, just like 2 or 3 months ago. I can say maybe we made boots with the best leather linings here in Indonesia.
It's important, it could be seen as a small thing, but just in terms of comfort and overall quality, I mean, it makes a huge difference. Okay, so why do you think there is this very unique, rare concentration of bootmaking, like very, very excellent handmade bootmaking in Indonesia and specifically Bandung? Like, why do you think that happened, and what is the special sauce over there that makes it happen?
Yeah, I think that was because the opportunity was there. We had the opportunity, and then we had, yeah, Bandung had a lot of leather artisans. Maybe back 10 years or 15 years ago, there is only small number of person that can make hand welted boots. But right now, everybody can study about it. Also, like, some of our artisans already setting up their own workshops and open up new orders for different brands.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. I've always tried to figure it out. Like, there's nowhere really like it anywhere in the world where there's this concentration um, of obviously people making these products, but people who want to make them, right? And who see that as something that they're excited about and something that they can make a career out of. Like, it's wonderful. I'm thrilled that it happened, but it's also kind of baffling because it doesn't really happen in that way anywhere else, especially from a handmade side. So good work, Indonesia.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
What's the cigar workshop look like today in terms of how it's set up and, the number of people that you have working, and how has that changed in the time that cigar has been around for almost a decade and a half?
We have moved for 4 times, I think. But our last, this place right now, or we already here for more than, around 6 or 7 years. But things are the same because we're still working with hammer and nails, so it looks the same. Yeah, yeah.
How do you train people on that? What's that look like? What's the process?
Usually they started as an assistant. The first lesson was holding a knife, because knife was quite dangerous if you didn't hold it properly. They learn to cut the leathers and, yeah, holding the knife. And then usually after 1 years, they are able to make a pair of boots, but usually the quality was not there. Usually after 2 or 3 years, they are able to make one pair of a proper boots, and started from them. They are working with us, so the process was quite long. It takes a long time.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to keep doing it, right? And again, amidst everything else that we talked about before, ordering materials, customer service, photography and marketing. I mean, you have to train people to do these if there's people who want them, right? It's tricky. I mean, look, and like all sorts of footwear is called handmade. I mean, sometimes it can be accurate and sometimes it can be not accurate at all, and sometimes it can be somewhere in the middle. But Sagara and really all Indonesian boots that we're interested in, at least, have all the bottoming done by hand, which is some serious stuff. Like, I mean, you don't have rapid E machines over there. How would you express what goes into making a Sagara boot? Like, what is the process?
I'm still believe that a handmade touch will always be better than a machine ones. That's why we keep our production style by hand. We all the things by hand. We didn't have a cutting dice. We cut the leathers by using knife and scissors. Uh, we do the sole stitching by hand. Like we put a hole one by one using awl to make the hole, and then we put the threads. Yeah, we enjoy the process. It was if you learning about shoemaking, it was kind of meditating, but it can be your job at the same time.
Look, let's take a quick break, and then you've got all these boots behind you. I think we got to kind of pull some down, talk about them, styles and patterns and construction and all that. But we'll be right back with Bagus from Sagara. Grandstone's first all-new boot in well over a year, the Garrison Service Boot, is here. And oh, it's a good one. The Garrison encompasses a whole list of firsts for Grandstone. It's their first true service boot, at least by the definition of utilizing a single-piece heel counter backstay panel. It looks pretty slick. It's also Grandstone's first time using 270-degree Goodyear welted construction. Also came out very slick. First all-eyelet boot. All eyelets is always slick, everybody knows that. And it's absolutely the first appearance of some very fun leathers, including Badalassi Minerva Box and Crimson Classic Kudu from CF Stead, which is certainly more slick than the waxy Kudu tannage they've used in the past. Because the wax can get, like, a little sticky, which is not slick. Sticky is not slick. Really good leather, though. Anyway, those two styles plus Color 8 Horween CXL are the first ones out there, but there's even more very fun Garrisonness to come from Grandstone in the coming months. Give the Garrison boot and Grandstone's entire lineup a look at grandstoneshoes.com. All right, we're back with Bagus from Sagara Bootmaker, live from Bandung. We should have like a concert. I can say that again. Okay, so you got all this stuff behind you. Some of your creations. I'd love to just talk through just what you're making, and we can show them off for everybody who's watching on our YouTube channel. If you're listening, maybe check out the YouTube channel too. But yeah, I'd love to talk through some of the kind of core Sagara styles and patterns, and then some of the construction techniques that you use, because there's a bunch of different ones. They render differently visually, but also kind of inside the boot. So what do we got? Can you show us some stuff?
Okay, I have some. Yeah, this is the. You remember like your boots?
Oh yeah.
But the Lassie Cordmasters, one of our best sellers. This was made using 360 hand welted storm welds and different kinds of. Technically, this is the same leathers. Badalassi Minerva Oliva, but this one was overdyed black, and the patches was leave it as it is, as the leathers. And then I have some plain toe regen boots on Petrolio Shell Cordovans.
Ooh, those are fun.
I love that, the green leathers. They are using 270 Norwegian storm welted. I love the colors. Can you see the 10 color stitching? I love this color.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, we also just finished our new speed hooks. Different than several weeks back. This is our new development. Also, I have a ghost
Whoa.
shell Cordovan. This is black marble shell Cordovan, but finished with a ghost effect. And then I rarely do region boots with curve heel like this. And we also have Norwegian stitching here.
Those things are serious, man.
Natural shell Cordovan, Bondokers
Oh, God, they're perfect.
with vibram soles. Basic pattern was Bondokers, but you can see different than usual Bondokers that use raw cord soles or rough side leathers. I love them too. Using 2 rows flat welt. We rarely do this. Yeah, it was just flat welt construction, but 2 rows of stitching.
Just to make it harder for the bootmakers who are doing that by hand.
Yeah, yeah. But the result was, I love the results. I didn't know how to pronounce it correctly in English. And this is what we have on production right now. This one is black cognac shell Cordovans. Not finished yet. We just putting the midsoles, waiting for the outsoles to put. And this also
Austerity brogue.
in natural shell Cordovan.
Oh, man. A lot of shell up there.
This one also shell Cordovan. I always mix up between whiskey and cognac. This is, yeah, I think whiskey color. Whiskey color. This is Norris.
It's tough.
I'm sorry. This is cognac. This one is cognac.
They're all. I mean, you know, when you order them, you expect you're getting the right one, and then you post a picture, and people are like, "Is that whiskey? Is that cognac? Is that bourbon? Is that something else named after liquor?" They're all beautiful. That's like the best part about them. But like, I mean, everything you just showed us and everything behind you, and I mean, I definitely encourage everybody to follow the Sagara Instagram. There's really an incredible range, right? Like, you know that I'm very into your Cordmaster monkey boots, like lace toe boots in general. I think it is like right there, right? Like, who's to say exactly what the best is, but man, it is on a short list of just this perfect monkey boot pattern, last everything, and it's this really, you know, rugged boot, and it's such a cool look. And then the Trail Masters are kind of in that vein as well, right? They're outdoorsy, they're useful. I mean, seeing what you do in your pairs, like you're really using them. It's incredible. But then you're also making austerity brogues. You're making things that I would say are a world away from the more rugged, you know, kind of lace to toe styles, but it all seems to fit together really well, which is that's tough. What would you say the overall aesthetic of Sagara is, and how do you accomplish it where you can have boots on completely different sides of the spectrum living together and making sense for a brand?
Most of our styles was boots was having purpose, like the Cordmasters, inspired by lineman boots, and like the Trail Masters made for the hikings. They need to have a function but beautiful at the same time, like the proportion, and then
When you look, I mean, I know your patterns, right? So I kind of do this all the time. So I can look at something and be like, oh yeah, that's just not a monkey boot. That's a Sagara monkey boot. But I could do the same thing, for your derby shoes. And we made one together years back, which are actually up on my shelf. They're immediately identifiable as something that Sagara made, even though the styles are very different. And that range is quite huge. I mean, you make dress shoes and you make lineman boots. That's difficult to do, but there is this maybe it's tough for me to describe too. There's a common recognizable thread between it all, which is it's pretty special, honestly, and I think it's quite cool. But it's not like, oh, we just have something for everybody, or somebody asked for this, so we made it, and it looks out of place. Like nothing in your lineup looks out of place. It all seems to fit. You mentioned the Standard and Strange collaboration, like the ready to wear collaboration from a couple years ago. I mean, it was so cool. And like I rushed into the city, saw them on the shelf before they all sold out and got shipped off very, very quickly. It seemed like a real moment. Is that something that you want to do more of? Whether, it's just ready to wear in general that you're selling, which we have seen a bit more of, or kind of having arrangements with retailers somewhere.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it. Hopefully, in 2024, there will be an opportunity for us to have presence in another place, or maybe in Standard and Strange again.
Do you know what percentage of high end boots and shoes, handmade stuff that you make, and some of these other brands that we've mentioned, made in Indonesia, are sold domestically versus internationally?
Yeah, I didn't have any idea about the whole Indonesian production that goes to overseas or domestically. But for us, I think around 60% goes to overseas.
Okay.
Well, actually, it depends on me, because I am the one who take the customer services for for international customers. And like this month, I was quite busy. I didn't answer a lot of inquiry, so the sales international was uh, going down. But usually we fill the capacity with domestic customers that handled by my wife.
That's great. And this is a mystery that I don't think we've ever figured out. Indonesia, it's generally pretty hot and
Yeah.
humid, and yet people really enjoy wearing some big old boots, right? And denim and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, actually, not most of Indonesian not love wearing boots in here. Most of us wearing the sneakers, or yeah, more casual shoes.
I mean, it's the same thing in America, but there's this growing subculture, right? Like it's,
Oh yeah.
and I love that exists. There's always, just the idea that the people are there and they're that interested in them that they're making them in, significant quantities, and that there's all these different brands. It's kind of wonderful. Again, it's very unique, right? Like there's other places that are, hot, cold, humid or not, around the world with a whole bunch of people, where it's not happening and it is happening there. And yeah, I don't know. We've always been like, oh, well, they love riding motorcycles, so they need some boots. Like nobody's ever really figured out much beyond that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love motorcycling. I do love. Actually, I love the journey. Not only while riding or feeling the motorcycle only, but the journey itself, like seeing the countrysides, seeing the woods.
And you need some good boots to do that in,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I would say.
I need trail masters for that.
Is that the one? That's the one you wear the most, at least when you're out adventuring?
Yes, it's like maybe lately, like for the past 1 years, I wore trail masters like 70% of my daily activities from playing or working. I had maybe 5 or 6 pairs of trail masters in different leathers, different height, different soles for different purposes.
I love it. And so what's the other 30% of the time?
Cordmasters
Nice.
and Bondockers, yeah.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot the same way. I mean, we're working on a pair of Cordmasters I feel like we've been talking about forever. So,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
we get back,
yeah.
I was like, no, let's stop worrying about those. Let's actually just, make a podcast and video so we can get back to that. But at some point, I mean, I've been a little obsessed with the Trail Masters too the whole time. And I don't know, we should talk about those as well because they're just so cool. They're so like aggressive, right? But still classic. And it's a really wonderful. I mean, just the patterning that Sagara does is so spot on. Like proportionally, I think that's one of my favorite things. Is that just the design, of course, is very important, but millimeters matter when it comes to patterning. And yeah, you guys are just good at it. I don't know. And I think that might be one of the things that we were talking about earlier that really ties this wide range of styles together under one brand is just that precision and how you approach patterning where it's very classic but there's a little extra that comes out of it. We're getting there. We're starting to figure out exactly how this all kind of works together. What's the craziest boot you've ever made for somebody custom ordered?
Actually, the most craziest boots was, maybe it sounds simple. It was a boot at size 47.5 euro size 47.5. Because we cannot find the outsoles, so the customers bring the outsoles by himself because we cannot
Really?
find. Yeah. It was Americans, and he was ordering right now maybe 4 or 5 times. He every time he orders, he also send the outsoles first,
Oh, I love it.
and then thinking about the design because we cannot find it.
And you have last that big?
We made special last for him. Yeah,
So is that 47?
0.5.
It's like a 14?
14, yeah, size 14.5 in US. Yeah, 14 and a half.
That's pretty big. We got to start sending some NBA players to you.
Yeah. It took a lot of letters.
Oh, I'm sure. What about a favorite pair that you've made? Do you have one that you say, this one, I love it so much. I'm so glad that somebody's hopefully wearing them a ton.
Honestly, it's hard for me to answer.
That's fair.
But right now, my favorite pairs was what I wore today because I will release this as ready to wear.
That's a good point too. Like I feel like at the beginning of this Indonesian boot boom, especially in the US and in Europe and wherever else, internationally, it was a very, very affordable product. And part of that was because of the local leathers. And I mean, I still have a pair of old underhoods from 5 years ago with, whatever, Indonesian pull-up leather, right? Rizky couldn't even tell me a tannery name. And they're great. And it's different than a Horween leather or, an Italian horse butt or certainly shell cordovan. And then I feel like people they're like, okay, well, can you get Horween leathers? Can you get Italian horse butt? Can you get shell cordovan? And then obviously that kind of process started and you figured out how to source it and work with it. But I don't know. I feel like a return in interest, especially internationally, to some of these Indonesian leathers. I don't know. I feel like they maybe didn't get the credit that they deserve. Like they're different, but some of them are really quite wonderful that I've been seeing, especially recently. And I think it's cool. I think that it's a product made in Indonesia with Indonesian materials. That's a great story.
Yeah, I think it was not a bad leathers.
No.
It was not bad at all. But yeah, like you said, it was different than stuff from Italy or Horween.
Yeah, but there's some. And are people? Where is that leather tanned? Is it in Bandung? Is it somewhere else?
No. It was from Java.
From Java.
Produced by small tanneries, like artisan level. usually in Indonesia, the good products coming from small workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't like leathers from big tanneries in Indonesia to to artificial.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not just there too, right? Like the majority of leather produced worldwide is not that great. Like Horween we think of it as a giant. Like in the scheme of things, internationally, they're a fairly small tannery in terms of what they output.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a pair of just Mocto boots from Midas that Emil made, and they have this pull up leather. I forget the whole exact story. Um, Actually, I think they were the collaboration with our friend Jesper and Skolix that they did a while back. And the story was it was just some guy, right? And he was tanning these things in the middle of nowhere using very old processes, and it's cool. It's cool stuff. It's usually a little like lighter weight, I think is one of the things that people are, I don't know, maybe wanting something that's a little heavier, I guess. But it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It has an absolute ton of character. And that story behind it, right? Like true artisan work on the tanning end, combining with the artisan work that you do in the shop is pretty cool. I would like to see people kind of get more interested in it, and it's generally a more affordable product too.
More affordable. That's correct.
So you mentioned these the low Trailmasters that you're wearing right now as something that you're excited about. Is there anything else kind of on the horizon that you're working on that you're just amped about?
Do you remember you have? I think your first Cordmaster using Sagara soles.
Yes. I had them resold eventually, but yeah, they had the design on it, right? It was kind of the design behind you on the sign, um, in the tread, and they were pretty cool. I should have kept them. I should have said, "Give me those soles."
We are planning to make our own soles again with better qualities and different design, of course, because the previous design was too details and the pattern was easily came off because too much thin hairlines,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we are planning to make our own soles again in 2024. We are collecting. Yeah, we are saving for that right now.
Bigger picture, we've seen Sagara grow, and then all these other brands, kind of spring up in Bandung and Indonesia more generally. And it's been a crazy ride, right? For the last 4 or 5, 10 years for Sagara. What do you think the next 5 or 10 years looks like for Indonesian bootmaking? Where does it go? What changes? What are you seeing?
I'm really hope that in the next 10 years we gather more attention from international and probably we have an opportunity to sit side by side with the luxury brands. Like maybe they can, like maybe right now the Italian shoes was credited as the best, yeah, at the luxury brands. But I'm really hope Indonesia can have that opportunity too.
I'd love to see it. I mean, again, there's everything that we kind of talk about on this show is part of a subculture, right? It's not mass culture. It's not sneakers. It's people who really care about something. A lot of times for the same reasons and craft and heritage and knowing the person who's making your boots. I mean, what's cooler than that? But it's still a subculture, right? And I think that's fine. But within that subculture, yeah, I don't really see any reason why the best Indonesian footwear can't sit side by side with, you know, something made in America or Japan or Italy or Budapest or whatever. Um, I mean, for me, it's there, right? The quality's there, the craftsmanship, the precision. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of I don't know, maybe not always having to send you a DM to order something on Instagram. And how does that change, right? I think that that's one of the biggest things is for most people who don't want to try as hard or don't even realize that trying as hard and designing your own boots is something you can do, but they're sitting on a shelf and you can pick them up and try them on and say, man, these things are really good. Um, and then they just buy them and wear them and love them and understand, a part of the world that they didn't before. I mean, I'd love to see it. And I think it's very, very possible, amidst all the chaos of just having to run a brand and build boots and market and communicate every single day.
Hopefully, we can get at that point someday.
I believe. We mentioned, kind of traveling around in motorcycles and all that, but this is what we're asking everybody now. Other than boots and bootmaking, what else are you just really into? What's another passion of yours?
Listening to music, motorcycling, and I love dogs, as you know.
Your dogs are incredible.
Thank you.
They're some of the coolest dogs I've ever seen.
They are getting older right now, so the energy was not like 2 or 3 years back when they were still puppy. I miss them at their own age. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah.
I've got 2 dogs. One's 7 now. The other one's like just turned 2, so he's still a puppy, and you kind of think they're going to be that way forever, right? Because they just, I don't know. Some dogs seem old immediately, and some dogs seem like they're going to be a puppy forever, and then it doesn't really happen all the time. They kind of grow up, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And one of your dogs is named Alden, right?
Yep, Alden.
Love it.
And another one is Shinky from Shinky.
Oh, right, Shinky. I forgot. I mean, on top of obviously being, representative of something, referencing something wonderful, those are just good dog names as far as I'm concerned.
But nobody here in Indonesia know what the name Alden came from. Nobody knows Alden in Indonesia.
Nobody does?
Nobody. Yeah, only people who into boots. But that's not much.
Yeah, I have a very good Indonesian friend, my buddy Jovan, who, he taught me a ton about shoes, especially when I was starting this and things that I wasn't really seeing or thinking about. And he loves it all, right? And he's back over there now. He was in New York when we first met, but obviously I knew about Alden, but he turned me on to Paraboot and Jam Weston and just some really wonderful stuff. So, there are people over there who are thinking about the good stuff worldwide more. And I don't know. Obviously the whole point of all of this is just helping it spread and helping people realize just how wonderful it all can be. And, hopefully it happens over there too, especially with this epicenter of bootmaking that really, you kind of created, right? Like over a decade ago. Yeah, like hopefully local people are also kind of catching on to what you're doing and realizing just how damn cool it is.
Hopefully.
All right, man. Look, thank you so much for doing this. Quick shout out again to Grant Stone for sponsoring this episode. Absolutely love you guys. Check out grantstonесhoes.com. Bagus, this is, we call it 5 years in the making, definitely a year of going back and forth and figuring out how to do this and make it happen. Thank you for tolerating me, speaking just silly English and dealing with that. I know it's not the easiest, but I, didn't put a gun to your head, but eventually wore you down on doing this episode. And I'm really glad that we did it. It's a very meaningful one to me. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. That's it for this week. Take care of your shoes. We'll see you next time.